So Alex, as I said, we are going to give you some questions from our viewers and from our readers of CNN.com around the world. Thanks for joining us on CNN. When I look at the list of questions, we've got one from California, we've got from Asia, from Africa, from the Middle East. Do you sometimes sort of scratch your head and go, goodness me, how this game has turned global from when you first started at Manchester United in the 1980s?
Well, I think it's my experience of being at United. We went to a tour in '88, I think it was, to the Far East, and even then, United fans in that part of the world was huge. I think that over the last decade in particular, I think it's swelled to the United States. You know, in a recent visit there this summer, we had fantastic turnouts of fans, and of course, the United soccer is improving, so that helps. But we've seen a tremendous increase in interest from the United States in particular.
Very early stages of the season, but already some indications about how Manchester United might do, what the teams that are going to be your biggest rivals, both domestically and in Europe, might do. And with that in mind, Mwati Kowa, who's a lady from Nigeria, asks, which team do you dread most in the Premier League and in the world? She asks rather dramatically.
Well, the Barclays Premier League is such a difficult league. It's almost tribalism. You know, every year you've got all the different areas of the country. You've got Newcastle, you've got Liverpool, you've got Manchester, you've got the Midlands, you've got London. So you can't dismiss the impact it has on you in terms of trying to win the Premier League. There's no question about that. I always look at the team who's won the league the year before. You have to be the target to try and overcome. It's up to the rest, and ourselves included, to do that. And Chelsea are the champions. There's no question about that. They've had a good start to the season, and I look upon them as the main danger to us. There's no question about that.
And whether it's in the Barclays Premier League or in the Champions League, you strike me as someone that probably just worries about their squad, and it's not until you get to play the team that week that you worry about what signings they've made in the summer. You've got enough to do, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly. You're concentrating yourself anyway. You know that the games that will matter will be probably against each other. That will matter. Last year we lost to both those games, and therefore that decided the title, I think. Next season we don't play Chelsea until December, so what can happen before the two sides meet? But of course there are big ones, you know, you can't dismiss Arsenal, Liverpool, Everton, all these, Tottenham, who have improved tremendously in the last year. You can't dismiss these teams, but you know, realistically you can't go beyond Chelsea in terms of the main danger.
Now, the 75,000 in Old Trafford every week and the millions around the world that are Manchester United fans scrutinise the squad, don't they, and your team selections every week. So with that in mind, we've got a question from Tariq Al-Nadi in Dubai, who says, Manchester United has always had a great tradition of midfield leaders, but lately it seems that area has been lacking. Darren Fletcher has reached the maturity where he can be a dominant box-to-box midfielder. Why not make him captain and use him in that role?
Well, the subject of picking the captain this year was pretty straightforward. Over the last 2 or 3 years, of course, Gary Neville has been the club captain, he's been the team captain. But as we know, Gary's been subjected to incredible amounts of injuries. So the inconsistency of Gary in your team makes you have to look elsewhere. So when you go to pick a captain, you really want to be picking a captain who's going to be playing every week. Defenders normally come into that far easier than the likes of Darren Fletcher. Because we have so many selections in midfield, from time to time we change that around. You know, Paul Scholes, who doesn't want to be captain, and you've got Darren Fletcher who's got leadership qualities, of course. But we change it midfield so many times. So therefore, I chose Nemanja Vidic, who signed a new contract. He's going to be our most consistent player. If he's fit, he'll always play.
I mean, you expect that sort of question from a United fan because they've been spoilt down the years, haven't they, with the Brian Robsons, the Roy Keanes, the Paul Inces. Do you think there are fewer big sort of generals of midfield players out there?
No, I think that obviously Brian Robson was an unbelievable player. I was unfortunate coming here when he was 31 years of age. I wish I'd come here when he was 21. And of course, Roy Keane was a different type of leader. He did maybe more of an example, but Robbo could manage a team on the pitch. But you can't place him above for Paul Scholes, for instance, as a footballer. Paul Scholes is an unbelievable player. He will always go down as one of the best players of all time here. So we don't lack leadership in terms of the general trend of our game. Paul Scholes runs the midfield every game. And the game last week, Liverpool tried to man-mark him. Impossible. So we don't lack that kind of leadership in terms of the way, the philosophy of our game and the way we like to play.
So Alex, a reflection of the respect you held in across the world of football is we've had lots of questions from fans outside of United, not just rude ones, plenty of people asking your thoughts on such a long and distinguished coaching career. An Arsenal fan who's a student in Switzerland, Gold Abelium, I hope I got his name right, says, in all your 24 years of coaching at Manchester United, who would you regard as the best player you've managed?
Well, that's difficult because trying to, for instance, Brian Robson was an incredible presence in the dressing room, and he was loved by the players. He was tactical, he was very, very astute. Roy Keane was a driving force in the dressing room. But they weren't the best footballers. They had great, unbelievable qualities that made them great players. But the great players we've had in terms of real quality, you've had Cantona, you've had, Giggs and Ronaldo, Rooney, that's Scholes, as I've said earlier on. These were fantastic footballers. But trying to say who's the best of them all is very difficult.
You mentioned Paul Scholes earlier. Ryan Giggs is another that's had a parallel career to Paul in many ways and just seems to get better and better. Can you tell us what an important player he's been to United down the years?
There's no player in the Premier League who's been running up and down that touchline as long as he has. He's been doing it now since we started the Premier League in '92. And his consistency and quality mark him down as the best player ever in the Premier League. There's no question about that. He's an incredible player.
When it comes to the makeup of the current United squad, we've got a question from someone in Nigeria, Solo Diosotti, who says, can you tell us more about one of your new signings this year, Bebe?
Yeah. Well, we're scouting Portugal. We alerted us about this young player playing in the second division in Portugal. There was a complication apparently in his contract which allowed him to leave to go to Guimarães. And they'd only played 3 or 4 games, and our scouts insisted we should sign him. It was a bit of a leap into the dark, really, because we hadn't seen him play. We sent down one of our other scouts with Antonio from Portugal to see him playing the last game before we signed him. And he came out and says, well, there's something exceptional here. We're maybe seeing something really special. And so we took the gamble. At that time, I think that Real Madrid and Benfica were starting to move in. It was one of these instinctive things. You have a smell about something and you take it. So he's joined us, but he was physically not ready. He had done a proper pre-season. So since he's joined us, the last few weeks we've been working on him physically. He's now played 1 reserve game. He'll be involved in the team tomorrow at Scunthorpe. And you'll see the progress now.
And finally, one slightly tongue-in-cheek question from a Liverpool fan in Thailand, Suti Srishasokolchala. I hope I've got that name right.
He deserves that name.
When will you really set your official retirement date, Sir Alex? He asked.
Well, there's no date, simply because I think that I've said this time and time again. And people my age, I think retirement's for young people because they can do something else. When you get to my age, then if your health is good, you like to work. Simple as that.